So from the forest, the trees, even to the open sea, every view in Puerto Rico, I know it reminded me of God's beauty. It isn't limited to perfect conditions, but it's revealed through every season in your life. We'll talk about it right after this.
Let's talk about love and marriage the way that God intended. A life experience, here we share it. The Love Fruit Podcast. Tune in from any platform. Love Fruit Podcast. Will help your spirit transform.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, Maurice.
Hey, Koff. I think one of the things that we need to understand in this moment, even just in that high, there's beauty in that. And what I mean by that is or where I'm saying that is that sometimes we take little things for granted.
Mm-hmm.
And for what we had experienced in Puerto Rico, because our room overlooked the ocean. And so in that, we definitely were able to see God's handiwork, most definitely. And to see the beauty in the sea, or the ocean, I should say, the blue skies, the white puffy clouds. But then we were also able to see the rough waters pounding the
Shoreline.
the shoreline. We were able to see the haziness come over the water, that where we could no longer see the horizon. But you get to see God's work in all of that. And as I had explained to you, that I wonder in that moment, what were the disciples thinking being on a boat?
Mm-hmm.
Or what would it have been like walking across the water and losing focus, and now you're starting to sink? And so in that, I was able to see God's love, his mercy, his beauty in life.
Mm-hmm.
Because now you get to really, because you just stated in another episode where, being in that quietness or that stillness, because we weren't talking about a whole lot of other stuff like you stated. We weren't, pulling out our phones, all that type of stuff, or on our phones. We were able to just sit there. I know you said hold each other and whatever it was, but as we were holding each other, we were looking out,
Mm-hmm.
and just being mesmerized. Like, wow, God, this is what it's like, huh? This is your true power at work. This is your true handiwork, whatever it might have been, and so sometimes you get to see how God maneuvers, how, as the, what is it in Genesis where it says his spirit, went over the land and the sea and all, all those type of things. Like, you get to feel that a little bit. Now I have a better visualization of what that's like.
Right.
And understanding that because even when that one day we were there, we were able to see just the wind constantly. Cause I told you, I was like, yo, them trees ain't getting a break. Like, that wind was, just pounding them trees like for hours at end.
Mm-hmm.
And like the trees just were not getting a break, and so can you imagine what life is like when you just feel like you're constantly in a storm? Can you imagine what life is like if you're like, hey, I'm in a place of paradise and everything is nice and calm, or whatever it might be? So from any aspect of the trees blowing, not blowing, to the rain, the quick rain that we experienced by standing in Walgreens, like, torrential downpour, whatever it was, to being able to just see what felt like, National Geographic just walking across the street, these, as Kafka called them, free range animals, to have that experience, there's nothing like it.
Yeah.
And sitting at the pool and having just the iguana or whatever it was, just walking around, just, whatever he was doing. And I could call them salamanders. They weren't salamanders, but whatever they were fast as I don't know what. And then the birds, whatever, all the experiences that we had, hermit crabs, whatever, all the experience that we had, being able to see God's hand in all of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely be able to see God, and all of those things, creatures great and small. I can see God in them all, as Marie said, from the hermit crab to, I think we even saw a regular crab along the shoreline as we went for a walk. We saw wild chickens. Mm-hmm. We saw so many things. And all of the animals were at peace. Like they weren't.
Yeah, they weren't like skittish.
They
weren't scared that we was going to go over there and try to fry them.
Right. Like now the pigeons were, a little strange, but I don't like pigeons. So they looked a little off to me, a little suspect. But everything else was just kind of chilling.
Except for the bird that we thought was a pterodactyl.
He was chilling where he was.
I guess he was.
He wasn't close to us.
Yeah, he wasn't.
And he was just chilling up in the trees for a while, and then they started flying. So everything had its place. Mm-hmm. Everything stayed, for the most part,
to itself.
Like it wasn't, we've been to other shorelines and the birds are like, oh, you got French fries? I want some.
Well, I think those birds were looking at us pretty,
But they weren't coming towards and like.
Well, no, they weren't coming toward, but they sure enough was walking underneath my chair.
Right, but they weren't, again, like other shorelines we've been, it's like.
They were a little calmer.
That movie, where the birds come down and just,
flock with you.
Yeah, peck at you.
Yeah.
No, they weren't like that. I didn't get that sense. Like you said, they walk nearby, but we're sitting still, and that's their habitat. That's where they are, So, but they weren't trying to jump up in the next chair next to us or up on a table and snatch stuff from us. I didn't see the snatchies like I see here in the mainland area. I've seen snatchies in the New Jersey shore where those birds come and just straight snatch your stuff. So again, being on vacation on the second honeymoon, I can say everything that we experienced certainly was eye-opening and remarkable in the way of seeing God's hand in it all. From the rain coming in, as Marie said, how it just the sky was blue and clear in the morning when we first got up, and we were contemplating like, okay, well, do we get up and go, do a few things? I'm like, what? The forecast says like 90% chance of rain. Right. I understand we're in tropics and the rain can come and just hit us for, 10 minutes and be gone, but we had no idea what time of day the rain was coming. And I think it had a little bit of a sign of maybe a thunderstorm or a severe storm. So again, we're in a land where not a lot of people speak English, so I couldn't look at the local news and kind of get a real good grasp of what's going on.
Yeah, we just could look at pictures.
So, I tried watching the local news, but they were saying it's going to rain, and couldn't pick everything else up. But so we had planned that day, but but again, sitting there and seeing the blue sky and the sunshine and the happy clouds, as Maurice had said, and then it kind of shifted. It was like an overcast, and then the sky got a little darker, and from the far, far distance, as far as your eye could see, it was like a roll. Like it just kind of rolled in. And it wasn't fast. I think here where we are right outside of Philadelphia, like I've seen things roll in, but it kind of rolls in quickly. But this one was, I guess, because it was so far in the distance and there was nothing to obstruct it. There's no tall buildings. There's nothing.
Perspective, yes.
So it could have been rolling from, who knows? But because we couldn't see anything else but that. So as it came in, as he said, like the sky changed, the horizon changed. At first you could see the difference between the sky and the water line, and you could see the horizon. But then as time went on, as we sat there and kind of marveled at God, it kind of came in and then it all looked like one color.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where Maurice is like, all right, could you imagine being out on a boat?
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I don't care if it's, you out there with the disciples or you out there on the Titanic. Like,
Mm-hmm.
can you imagine? And I was like, well, the Titanic, it was cold. So really no. So, and it was night. So,
but we also said that, hey, when it got really dark outside and then you're like, could you really be out there when the Titanic really happened? And I'm like, no, because they had moonlight.
Yeah.
They had stars. We ain't got no stars.
We don't know what they had. They could have had overcast then as well. So, so that was that particular time of watching the storm come in. And then it came in and it rained, majority of the day. And then it cleared up and became sunny again. And then we got ourselves and went out for the evening events. But then there was another event of just watching the sky and everything shift and change as well. And, again, just watching God do what God does was just remarkable. We're city people. We quite concrete jungle. So, but when we went here, it was a different kind of a jungle.
Mm-hmm.
Different kind of a jungle. Most definitely, again, all of the creatures, great and small, flying creatures, crawling creatures, swimming creatures. Quite interesting. The first day, the water didn't look as blue, but, the next day we could see how blue the water was. When we got in the water, it was clear. You could see the bottom. It's like, okay, I see rocks and, other stuff. So it was quite interesting to see, again, God's hand. And as Maurice said, even with the trees blowing and bending in the wind, and you could look at it as a negative, like, wow, the wind just won't give up. But sometimes, like, that's God blowing on you, blowing things your way, moving things in your life. And you don't want that to let up, So, yeah, that one day the trees were all leaning to the left. But then the next day, when the storm had passed, they were just up, standing straight up. It didn't even look like they were leaning that long for that. It seems like if they lean that long, that they would kind of grow that way or permanently lean that way. But they didn't. They were like, yeah, just a brand new day, and I'm standing here, and I'm getting all the sunshine, and I'm giving God all the glory. And I was just like, wow, okay, trees, I see you. So it was quite the remarkable experience. When we first got there, one of the things I was like, all right, this is it. I'm not going to do, especially when the rain was coming and the storm was coming, I was like, okay, this is our second time, I think, seeing a storm come in with having a hotel on the ocean. We're not a block away. We don't have to walk. Like, you come outside and boom, you're at the ocean. So I was like, okay, maybe this is my last time of needing to be oceanfront. But then by the time we left, I was like, oh, wow. I didn't want to leave the balcony. Maurice is like getting dressed and getting the luggage together. He's like, all right, you ready? I'm like, just 5 more minutes. Just that peace of being there in the ocean. And it was, again, different than other shores that we've been to. It didn't smell like
dust. Dirt.
And when we go to the New Jersey shore, like, we know we're close because it just has a distinct ocean smell, a beach smell. And I'm, grew up on it, just know what it is. Even when we went to the Delaware beaches, it was a little bit different.
It smelled like they put extra salt in it or something.
But there was just a different scent. But pulling up on here, I was just like, it doesn't
Yeah,
smell like anything. I
yeah,
don't know
it
if
didn't
it's
smell
because
anything.
of the humidity and the mist and the rainforest. Like, I don't know what it is, but it didn't have that same vibe and feel in reference to the ocean air was vastly different. I don't know, it's because it wasn't as beachy. Maybe it needs more beach with the sand and the salt.
I think that there is no beach. I think as soon as we saw where the what you call it was like a 30-foot drop. That's the way it looked.
Yeah, it did.
You know, from outside our room, it looked like hey, you
But
know
even
what?
when we went to the beach, like people weren't going that far out, and the ones that were
Oh no, they
further
weren't.
out were like doing major water
Yeah, like
sport stuff.
they were doing like we belong in an Olympic type, you know, we're synchronized diving
So-
stuff like yeah.
I mean, there were people who were doing some snorkeling. They were quite close, but you know, maybe 15 feet out, people were like really doing some water sport
So
stuff.
understand 15 feet from where the water is hitting the land out, and they're doing that like they're like submerged.
Yes.
And the guy that was doing it, he's tall. He was taller than me. And I'm 6 feet. You get what I mean? You know, and
So there's a major drop off.
whatever it was, 15 feet. Yeah, I mean, it was. Whatever, and plus he was doing other stuff. He was posing. You know, he was Mr. Olympia, whatever he
That's
was
what I
doing.
say. They were doing Olympic water
Yeah.
sports out there. So.
You know, and so one of the things I want to say to each and every one of you that if you listen to what we're talking about as far as the rain or whatever it is, if you can find the beauty in that, then you won't take the sun moments for granted. And that this shift of mindset, of perspective, or whatever it is, it can help all of you, even us, because it has, to understand that we're moving from a place of frustration to now more faithfulness, of faith, of believing in God and where, you know, and who He really is in our life, and trusting that every season is shaping our love story for His glory, you know. And so I want y'all to kind of go away with that mentality, you know, that no matter what the situation is that whatever you're going through, the rain, the storms, or whatever it is, that when it is time for the sun to come out, don't take it for granted, because sometimes we do. And we don't, and i.e., if you listen to another show where we talk about things being unscripted, it's unscripted for a reason.
Right.
You know, it ended up being unscripted for a reason, our trip. Because it was time for us to take advantage of the moment that God had presented to us and not take it for granted. And so, so I think those are the things that, like Kafa's speaking about, of just looking at the horizon change. That was crazy. Looking at the sky go from this beautiful blue with the white clouds to literally everything was gray. You can, it's almost like a curtain or something. It was crazy. It was not. It almost felt surreal.
Yeah.
It almost felt surreal. Like, is this really happening? Cough.
Yeah, but that wasn't the day that Jesus was supposed to come back or whatever.
I know. No, it wasn't. But that's what it felt like. Like, okay, this is what the rapture going to look like. Yeah, I guess.
Right.
You know, and maybe what I heard wasn't, you know, them little steamboats or whatever else honking the horn. Maybe that was the, you know, whatever it might have been. You know, but the reality is that we sometimes take the good times for granted and don't understand that we're going to go through these storms. We're going to go through these moments. And so when Kafa is sitting out there on the patio, on the balcony, overlooking the clear blue, probably the most calm water that we had since we had been there. It was a little calmer than most of the time we were there. I think at that time, though, I was saying I wonder if people was going to go out there and surf. So it was still a little bit of ways, but nowhere near what it had been earlier in the week. And so so I was wondering whether or not, because there was a storm that had passed around us, and so I was wondering if we were really getting the residuals of those waves,
Right.
Because that storm, those waves, that water, as Kafa stated, like, it looked angry. It did. It looked really angry, and it felt angry how hard it was beating the coast.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and sometimes we take those moments for granted of the sun, of the calmness, and we don't really give God the glory in that.
Yeah, yeah. I think outside of taking the sunny days for granted, whether, it's an actual sunny day or a metaphoric sunny day, sunny days with your marriage, sunny days at work, sunny days with your kids, with your aging parents, whatever that is, we want those sunny days. We long for those sunny days. We look forward to them. But as Maurice is saying, we have to acknowledge and learn to appreciate the rainy days. I can remember, and I'm just one of those weird type people, but always saying, like, I didn't want every day to be sunny. Like, I wanted to have some rainy days, because I think when you have rain days, it allows you to appreciate the sun. Because when things become normalized, and always there and very predicted, then that you don't appreciate that anymore. So I think that's part of what the benefit was of us doing this type of vacation. It wasn't like any of the other ones that we've had, because we can predict what we would do any other time. But because this was unscripted, because this was, just whatever happens, type of a thing. We were able to embrace it for what it was and to enjoy it, with the rain, with the sun, with all of those things. I appreciate it even the more so because we had the chance of having both. So I think that made the trip even the more full because we did have rain days and we did have sunny days. Because that's just one thing that I appreciate about life, that every day, especially for where we live, like people say, oh, they live in other parts of the world or other parts of the country and it's, the same temperature all the time and they don't have much rain or they don't have snow. Like where we live, we get all 4 seasons.
Some of it might be only a day long. But
I'm going to say some of them are shorter, but, there's not very many years that we go by without a rain season, without a snowy season. It might just be 1 or 2 days. It might not accumulate to be a whole lot, but, you have some snowflakes that may fall. And then, there's also, your hot season and your cold season. And then the repeat of a hot season. So, but it allows you to appreciate life. It allows you to appreciate the days. So when it's 90 degrees, I can appreciate wintertime. When it's, 20 degrees outside, I look forward to summer coming. And I don't think that one is any better than the other. I know for you with allergies and things like that, you may not be looking forward to certain seasons, but, because of having all of those makes me appreciate them all the more. I don't know how much I would appreciate winter if I had winter all the time. I think I would get tired of the snow. I think snow is pretty. I think when it falls, it's beautiful. It's gorgeous. Again, another thing we can see God's hand in. But if it was like that all the time, you'd be like, all right. You would lose sight of its goodness. You would lose sight of God's hand in it all because you have it all the time. So it does take time to step back and look at things to kind of see God's hand in it. So with 25 years of marriage and seeing Maurice's wonderful face all those days, I don't get tired of it, like I would, I guess, if I got tired of the snow. I can see, because he changes. He has changed over all these years.
I mean, my snow face.
I don't know. Just in certain places, you're getting snowy.
Yeah.
Snow covered.
Right.
I can't say anything. I'm going through a snow phase too.
Yeah, I mean, right now. I'm just in some places it's a full blown, avalanche, and in some places it's just a flurry.
It's a flurry here and there. So we're talking about gray hair, in case you guys are not getting what we're talking about with the snow phase. So yes, salt and pepper, things are going on in our lives. But yeah, so Maurice is definitely not the same person that he was way back in 1996 and 1997, and nor am I. And yes, I said 1990 something. It's been that long. So, but it's been a happy time, a happy 25 plus years of marriage plus friendship. And I wouldn't trade it in at all. I'm happy for the sunny days. I'm happy for the rainy days. I'm happy for the stormy days that we've had. I'm happy for the heat waves, all of those things that we've had. And I look forward to even more. And I think, with our past, I'm better prepared, better equipped to handle those days as they come, but also appreciate them when they come. So I look forward to that.
So I just want y'all to understand why this all matters, why we're talking about this. Because marriage, in a nutshell, because I'm going to break down really what Kafa said altogether. Marriage in a nutshell is like that island. You could have a whole lot of mountaintops and storms.
With snow.
And you could have a lot of sunshine and shade. And so when you start to see God's fingerprints, not even his whole hand, but just his fingerprints in it all, that you can see even the seasons can become holy, can become sanctified, can become that breeding ground for what needs to happen for the next season. And you can see it coming, or sometimes you might not see it coming because you're caught up in all the other stuff. But when you understand and you just really start to see God's fingertips in it all, you're really able to enjoy what you have going on. So that's all I got to say. And I hope that y'all have enjoyed this episode. I know these last couple episodes we're getting a little deeper because we really want y'all to understand that we're not taking year number 25 lightly. At least I'm not. And I want y'all to understand, because of the way the world is going or whatever it is, we need to make sure that we are staying connected. Most definitely. And so we'll talk to y'all just a little bit later.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the No Fruit Podcast, where we bring you fruitful conversations, ripened wisdom, and love that's deeply rooted. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with someone who could use a little inspiration in their day. Until next time, stay rooted in love, and remember, every seed you plant today shapes the fruit of tomorrow.